Most people from a developing country grab the opportunity and the chance, and they do their best as they can to move to United States of America. Our guest did the reverse. She was born and raised in America and moved to the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest this week is an international speaker, a CEO and the founding director of Global Impact, a justice advocate, a minister, and also an empowerment coach. We are so proud to have our special guest for our Valentine episode, Amy Muranko Gahan. But before we will proceed to the main interview, I would like to remind the viewers to click on the subscribe and the bell button so you get a notification every time a video is released. This is Jeanette Jordy at Global Inspiration, where you need to be seen, need to be heard, and be an inspiration to the world. Again, ladies and gentlemen, with pride and joy, welcome our guest this week, Amy Muranko Gahan. Amy, good day.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here with you. Thank you for having me on Global Inspiration.
Thank you very much, Amy. In my introduction, I said that you were born and raised in America. And where is that?
Near Chicago, a city called Rockford, and actually a small town near Rockford. So, but you know, for most people, they know Chicago area and about a couple hours for outside of Chicago.
Okay. So you are now in the Philippines. What city are you staying more often in the Philippines?
In Davao City. I'm based in Davao City in southern Philippines, which I believe is where you're from, correct?
Yes, I am from Davao City. Yeah, small world, right? Yay!
Davao City, amazing.
Yeah, it is an amazing city. So how long have you been in the Philippines?
You know, a long time, really, over 20 years ago, I first came to the Philippines. I lived and worked in Iloilo, and at that time, and then eventually started an office in Davao, Manila, and Puerto Princesa. That was actually with a different organization that I was with, and but that's the beginning of my personal time in the Philippines. So a long time, though I haven't lived here the whole time, I've always had ongoing projects and have lived here, you know, off and on during those 20 years.
So when was the last time you had visited United States?
Oh, let's see. Because of quarantine and because of COVID, let me think back. Then it's 20. So I think, I can't remember exactly, but end of 2019.
Okay. Because the last time I was in the Philippines was 2020, February 2020. So this may ask some more details. Question is, why are you in the Philippines?
Yeah. Okay. Great question. And I love how you introduced me that so many, really, it's so true that so many people from the Philippines work hard to actually go overseas, or many go overseas and work so that they can send money back to their families here in the Philippines. It's, you know, as you well know, we even have a term for it called OFW, Overseas Filipino Worker, which is official. But yeah, it is the reverse. In fact, I was thinking that as we started the interview, you're from Davao and living in America. I'm from America living in Davao. We've traded spots.
Yeah.
But I originally, I'll give you the shorter version, but it goes all the way back. I'll start all the way back when I kind of grew up a typical American midlife, not midlife, what's the term? Middle class. That's the word I'm looking, like middle class, just kind of regular American girl, and went to a small town school in Illinois. And then I loved math. I was good at math. So I went on to the University of Illinois and actually got a civil engineering degree. And yeah, and then, but when I was in university and getting ready to graduate, I just praying and asking God what he had for my life next. And he took me on, I guess, a turn. I mean, it was never a turn for him, but for me, it was like, wow, it went this direction where I really knew he was calling me into ministry. And so I graduated from or from university, from civil engineering degree, and went out to California to do a 2-year Bible training, ministry training course. And that really launched me into my destiny. That's what my heart is for people, for nations, to make an impact, to share the love of God, both in heart, but also in demonstrating it, like actually with action, not just
Yeah,
words.
yeah,
And that just led me on my path of really ministry all of my years. And that's what led me to the Philippines how many years ago.
yeah,
And so I have just continued, when once I was here and sort of committed and sowed my life into the country, it just kept evolving. And to the point that we established Global Impact, my organization here, and we have a pretty large work that we do in Southern Philippines now to this day here in Philippines. So that's why I'm here, because I love the Filipino people. I feel called to be here and to assist in the development, the advancement of people, of nations, and
yeah,
also, like, another issue that's here is there's human trafficking. So we're
yeah.
also working to help stop human trafficking. So many things. I feel
Yes,
the
so
call.
many things, so many things. And thank you for the sacrifice of going from coming from America and going to the Philippines.
Thank
I
you.
have
Thank
yeah, I have seen a lot of your Facebook photo, and every time there's photos, they're like kids. And I can, by the way you smile, I could tell myself, she is having fun. Can you give me three things that you like most about the Philippines? You've been there for 20 years. Can you share that with the viewers?
Okay, that's, yeah, great question. So three things that I love the most. Um, the first one is there's a real beauty about the Filipino people. Very loving and embracing, though sometimes shy, because even though I've been here how many years, still, because I'm English speaking, they
Yeah.
don't want to talk to me. So they'll initially love me. They tell me how beautiful I am, because that's very, they're very, Filipino people are very expressive in that way. But then beyond that, they don't usually want to talk to me more because of the English side. But I love that, where they're so open in that way and so embracing. So that's one thing I love. Another thing I love is the beauty of the country. Now, for those that don't know, Philippines is an island nation, over 7,000 islands. Now, I love water, I love the beach, I love tropical climate. Now, I have to say, not every city is beautiful, because there is, it is a developing country, and still sometimes there's a lot of, things that don't look so nice. But when you get out of the cities and you get into like the jungle and you get into the beach area, to the mountains, it's absolute raw beauty. It's gorgeous. Gorgeous. So that's the second thing that I love. And the third is that the Filipino people are actually influential all around the world, right? So people aren't just in the Philippines, but they're here, but they're literally, as I mentioned before, working around the world. So there's a real versatility to Filipino people, an adaptability, a real servant's heart. And you see that because of also being an English speaking nation, as a third language. English is a language. Not everybody speaks necessarily
Correct.
fluently, but at least some English. As again, you well know, I'm speaking more to the viewers. Um, so I love that adaptability and flexibility, and that willingness to go, and to serve, and to earn, even for their families. The sacrifice, you see a lot of sacrifice here. People will sacrifice to help their family.
So you will be in the Philippines for 20 years, and I will be in America for 20 years. And
Wow.
thank you for loving the Philippines with all your heart.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah,
That always means so much to me when Filipinos say that to me. So thank you. That really means something in my heart.
yeah, and just to share with you, it is actually personally a privilege for me to interview you and be a guest of Global Inspiration. You are Global Impact, and I am Global Inspiration. So being the CEO and the founding director of Global Impact, which is a nonprofit organization, and I understand that you have office here in the United States, you have an office in the Philippines, and you have an orphanage in Ukraine, and you do outreach program in New Zealand. I consider that a great feat. Can you share with us What is Global Impact? When was it created? And what is the mission of the group?
Sure, thank you. I'm privileged to be able to share that with you. Okay, Global Impact, I founded it in 1997 in the US as a 501c3 nonprofit organization there. And then started just traveling more, doing like itinerant ministry in the beginning. And so over the years, we then established, as you just said, our Philippine base and operations, our Ukraine base and operations, and then we've worked in many different countries. So we have off and on projects in different countries. Normally, I'd be going to New Zealand once a year. Usually there, I speak in churches and conferences, but of course with COVID, I haven't traveled at all. I've been in the Philippines for over the last year, which is great though, because we're doing a lot more media. So we're reaching the world through media. But our mission statement for Global is to release freedom and empower potential. Release freedom, empower potential. So we do that in a variety of different ways. I feel like people have freedom on the inside of them, that God's made us his children, that he's made us actually enough, perfect, worthy, lovable, 100%, fantastic. It's just that we have a lot of beliefs, a framework of thinking, maybe things in the past that hold us back from actually manifesting the freedom that's already in us. So our programs, though, I love the word freedom because it's what I speak on, teach on, coach on, and do. Right. So like if it's a teaching, we're focusing around that freedom. The flip side, let's say the topic of human trafficking, which is our advocacy here. Those are people, people are enslaved in some way. They're abused, they're exploited. And so we want to bring freedom in that capacity. So that freedom is like the underlying foundation of all that we do, whether it's teaching and preaching or it's practical application. Freedom. We always want to be bringing freedom and then putting tools into people's lives to empower their potential. So we do a lot of relief work. We do a lot of, giving to people, but we also want to go the next step where they take personal responsibility and develop themselves. So that's the scope of what we do, the heart behind it. And from that, we have a lot of different practical outreaches and programs that we're doing in the Philippines. And as you mentioned, in the Ukraine, we have a children's home, an orphanage. We have about 40 children there. We just celebrated our 9th-year anniversary, and I love that. And I also work with a group of churches there and do leadership training and speaking there as well. Yeah. So that's a bit of what.
Yeah, you are pretty brave and courageous and quite busy. So you mentioned when I introduced you, you mentioned that you are a civil engineering graduate, and then you took 2 years for ministerial studies. Can you give us more details about that? What prompted you to do ministerial studies? Is it in the family or is it calling or?
Oh, yeah. What happened to me was, since being a little girl, I've always, I gave my life to the Lord when I was young, and I had just a real, a vibrant, real relationship with him, which is what I believe for, everybody. We can have that. It's a heart relationship. It's not about religion. It's about a heart relationship with him. And thankfully, I had that since I was a child, and a real, that connection with the Lord, and always seeking him and his direction for my life. So I very much felt, like led to go get my civil engineering degree. But what happened was when I was going into my senior year, I went to a conference that was actually up in Minneapolis, and there was one of my favorite preachers at that time had the conference, and he announced that he was starting a Bible school in 1 year from that time, and everything on the inside of me just came alive, stirred. Like it was like, I knew that I knew that I knew that I was meant to do that. It was here. It wasn't just something in my head. It wasn't just a nice idea.
Correct.
It was like, go do that. And I thankfully at that time too, I had the support of my parents. Thank you, parents, for supporting me too, because they had helped me get my engineering degree,
Yeah.
And a lot of time and money you put into a degree, and then kind of shift focus and go to ministry school. But actually they were more than happy for that. They really supported me. I'm thankful for that. So it was a calling, and I didn't understand everything at that time. I didn't know what really God was calling me to, but I took that next step. And as I went out to California and did this 2-year Bible school and ministry school, then, things just unfolded. And I knew that this was me, that this is what God had called me to. And the first time that I went overseas, I went on my very first missions trip to Czechoslovakia. It was Czechoslovakia at that time. And when I did that, again, something came alive in me that I'd never felt before, that time. And I just knew that God called me to the nations.
Yeah, and I am so thankful and I'm so grateful because of your calling. You have helped a lot of Filipinos, not just Filipinos, but a lot of citizens all over the world. I introduced you as an empowerment coach. Can you give us more details on that?
I would love to, because it's kind of a newer focus but it's come out of many years of ministry and development. And as I said before, my theme, and again, a calling, is to help people empower their potential, bring them freedom and empower potential. So for many, many years, I've done something called Freedom Prayer Ministry, which is just like one-on-one prayer and discussion with somebody to work through, let's say, a pain in their heart, an issue that they can't quite, they're struggling with and they haven't been able to get victory. So God's given me some real kind of tools and skills there, to the point that I've trained church leadership teams in different countries on what I would call freedom prayer ministry. Okay, so that's very much like through a prayer focus, a spiritual focus. But in the last 2 years, I started also being coached myself and learning life coaching skills. And it's transformative. And so what I've done is actually combined the two. And to me, it's a very unique combination, because it's not just about just how we think. I mean, how we think is so important. It all comes down to it. And the Bible even says that we need to renew our minds and be transformed by renewal. But when we can understand some life coaching principles, but also use the power of God for the transformation, wow, it's like dynamite, And so in this last year, in 2020, I launched empowerment coaching programs. And I can only take a few clients, because it takes, it's like, usually it's like 1 hour a week. We do 10 session packages, and it's like this Zoom call, but it's like we're talking through something, and we're advancing something in some area of a person's life through what I term empowerment coaching. And the newest is that I want to be able to reach more people with the principles. So I've put together, because I'm only limited how much one-on-one time I can spend with people, but if I can put a course together and put it online, and it's self-paced, then I can reach more people and get the principles to more people. So we've just launched, as you know, because you're a part of it, right?
Yeah, I registered myself. Okay, go ahead.
So we have a new course that's called Relationship with Self. And it's all online, so that it's self-paced. No, we have a recommended pace that you do it. Like, we recommend a person does it over a month and one topic per week. However, it can be done slower, much slower or faster, or whatever's good for somebody's time. It's fine. It's all online. So you log on, you have the videos, you have a downloadable handbook. And then what we also will do is offer once a week live group coaching calls. So if somebody wants to get on the call and watch other people be coached, or be coached themselves, or answer questions, and we'll have that live interaction. And it's called Relationship with Self. And the idea with this is that there's 3 main relationships that we have, even according to scriptures. The scripture says, love God, with all of your heart, soul, and mind. Then it says, love others, love your neighbor as you love yourself. So it's kind of hard to love other people when you're hating yourself, or when you're not feeling good, or you're depressed, or you're down. We don't give as much. And the Bible gives us a real key there, that having healthy relationships with others actually is impacted by how we relate to ourselves. But I must say that most of us don't think about that. We think about our relationship with God, we think about our relationship with others, but we don't really usually analyze, how do I relate to myself? And what I mean by that is, a relationship is made up of what we think and what we feel. So what am I thinking? What am I feeling about myself? And Jeanette, it's like they say out there, and I believe it, there's anywhere from like 60,000 to 70,000 thoughts that we have on a daily basis. That's a lot of thoughts, right? But most of those are just habit thoughts. They're subconscious. We don't even register them, because we're all programmed. We had our programming as we grew up. And we started to learn how to relate to life, how to think about things, how to relate to ourselves. And there's so many thoughts that we have going on inside of us that actually do not empower us. They disempower us. They draw energy, but we're so used to thinking them, we don't even know we think them.
Yeah.
And so this course is helping us be self-aware, help us to do some analyzing, be an observer of ourselves, and then eventually how to transform it. And I'm excited to see how it's going to help. It's going to help people. And this is the first one. We plan to do a series of online courses,
Yeah.
but we've just launched this first one.
Yeah, and to tell you the truth, Amy, I am excited to start that course because I signed up, I registered myself. I learned so much about the course from you tonight.
Good.
Yeah,
Okay.
so good. So I am calling you a justice advocate because you are aggressive in fighting human trafficking. Question is, what have you done and what is Freedom Campaign?
Okay, great. Freedom Campaign is our anti-human trafficking campaign. So for the viewers who might not know, we have more people in slavery and exploitation than any time ever in history, which is kind of shocking, but it's the truth. It's the statistic, I think the latest statistic is over 40 million people that are living in some form of slavery. So the modern term for slavery is human trafficking. So there's different types of trafficking. There's sex trafficking, there's labor trafficking, drug trafficking, there's online sexual exploitation of children. There's many things that fit under the scope of this. And so I first learned about the human trafficking issue, maybe it's 10 years ago now. I read a book by a lady that lived in Cambodia, and she was sold into sex slavery as a teenager. And at the time I was absolutely shocked because I didn't even know that anything like that existed. It just so gripped my heart that I can't believe this is happening in my generation. And so from reading that book and understanding that it wasn't just her, but this was a worldwide issue, as I studied it, I knew that I wanted to be a part of the solution. There's no way I could ever tackle the whole problem, but maybe I can do a part. Maybe I could help one or two, or a community of people. And if I do my part, then at least somebody's being helped. So several years later after that, we launched here in the Philippines, it's called Freedom Philippines Campaign. And like I said, specific on tackling the human trafficking issue. And it's a worldwide issue. Every country is plagued by it in some way, but here in the Philippines, we actually have a lot happening. So many people are exploited for labor. I said before, there's a good component of people going overseas and working, but the underbelly of that is that there are some people that are exploited and they're tricked and they're deceived. And let's say, for example, they're hungry and they need to feed their family. So they go through backdoor channels to go to Malaysia to work. But when they get there, their passport is taken and they're forced into prostitution. Very real stories.
Yeah.
Another big issue here in the Philippines is the online sexual exploitation of children, which is one of my main focuses right now. And we work with the Interagency Council Against Trafficking, which is the government agencies here, plus a few other NGOs that work to fight that, all trafficking issues. But our big one that right now we're concerned about is where our children might, young ones or even teenagers, basically sold online for some type of sexual act, and that's online sexual exploitation of children, OSEC. And again, unfortunately, Philippines is number one in the world for that. Yes. So we have a big issue here, and we feel like it's gotten worse because of the pandemic. We have very strict lockdowns here in the Philippines, actually, and children right now are not even, they don't go to school. They're in their homes. They're literally locked down in their homes.
Yeah.
And so if they're in a home that's abusive or exploitive in any way, now less of authorities or even have a chance of finding out about it. Yeah. So we're working collectively, with the police and with different, the agencies here to work on that issue. We as Global Impact, our main focus is the advocacy and awareness, right? So we do a lot of programs. If it wasn't COVID, we'd be in communities, doing children's camps, being with the tribes, being with business people in the universities, over 2020, we've had to shift to media stuff, which is okay. And hopefully in 2021, we can start to do a lot more with people, face to face,
Yeah.
but we're also going to do more media. So we want to bring awareness for two purposes. The awareness brings hopefully prevention, so people aren't deceived. Most human trafficking is deception based. So if they have education, hopefully they won't be deceived. But second of all, if someone's being victimized or a child is being victimized, and then we do an advocacy and we say, hey, this is actually against the law. This is horrible. There's an idea here that if it's no touch, no harm. So in other words, if it's online, it's not actually harming the child. Well, that's not true. We know psychologically in so many ways. And usually they are being touched by somebody, here, but for the online show, which is, it's horrible. And so if through advocacy and awareness, we hope that somebody will report it and children can be saved from this.
And I salute you, Amy, for doing that. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of talking for prevention and for awareness. And in fact, last year when I visited the Philippines, we went to a welfare organization in the Philippines. We were trained. It was a vacation, but at the same time I was working. I am also an advocate against human trafficking, and I was interviewed by your TV show.
That's
For
right.
for human trafficking. Talking about TV shows, I know you have two TV shows, the Usapang OFW Help Desk and Limitless Life. Am I correct? Limitless Life.
Yes, limitless.
Can you discuss more about these shows?
Sure. So the first one that you mentioned is in local language here. That's the one that you were interviewed for. And so actually anybody that speaks Visayan Tagalog we welcome them to listen to that. It's tackling issues here in the Philippines, but also for overseas Filipino workers. So that would be great. We invite people to come on. That's online every week in Philippine time, every Tuesday at 11:30. And it's live, but of course it's on our Facebook, so it can be watched anytime. And we partner with DXFE here, a local radio program and network. So it's also broadcast on the radio, on radio, but as well as online. So anybody can watch it live online, though, no matter where you're at, whether live or the recorded version. Then we have our show Limitless, and the idea with that is it goes back to our theme of releasing freedom, empowering potential, and how do we live a limitless life? How do we shatter the glass ceilings of limitation? And so that came about. I won't go into the history of it really, but from pandemic, from a program we called we run CLA. I guess I am telling you the background story. Our theme for our Catalyst Leadership Academy in 2020 was Limitless, but because we had to shift to media program, then we did our Leadership Academy. But from that, it was so successful, we made these shows. And there's actually two Limitless shows. I like to say it this way: there's Limitless in Visayan, and there's Limitless in English.
Okay.
So the Limitless in Visayan is done by our Global Impact team that are Visayan speakers, and more directed at youth, because it's very fun and interactive, and there's games and raffles, but there's always a message, like an inspirational, powerful message that's there. That's what we want to do. And then Limitless in English, I do the majority of the time. We also have Sharika, who's an American, who's our operations director here, as well as other guest speakers that come on and do the Limitless program. So I also really welcome people to watch that. I think we've got a lot of great teaching content, but also interviews that we do on Limitless.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Amy. Your life is very inspirational. I don't know how you manage your time. I salute you for doing that, because Filipino people are benefiting from it. You've been all over the world. You are a media guru, and now you are into empowerment coaching, and you've done so many things. And I want you to talk to our viewers about, I want you to give them an inspirational thoughts about life or anything else that you want to share with them.
Okay. What first comes to mind is again a topic sort of I'm thinking about a lot through the life coaching and empowerment coaching, and it's that we all have circumstances around us, right? We all have things that are happening. People interact with us, and life interacts with us, and we think that those interactions cause us to have a feeling. So we grew up thinking this. Like we also say like to our children, don't do that, because if you do that, you'll make mommy mad.
Yeah.
You know, you do that, you make me mad. So in other words, the other person causes our feeling, right? My husband did this, my son did this, my daughter did this, my staff did this, my boss did this, and I feel like this. And the feeling could be positive or negative. Oh, you did this and it made me happy. It made me joyful, made me feel good. You did this and I'm so angry because you did it. But what we have to do, COVID, quarantine, politics, everything makes me so mad or so scared, or I feel so much anxiety or so much fear because of COVID. But we have to get more power back in our life, we have to separate those two and not associate our feelings with a circumstance. Now it's hard and we don't automatically do it. We got to talk ourselves. And we have to say a circumstance is neutral. What that person did is neutral. And the reason I feel is because I have a thought about what happened. The reason I feel is because I have a narrative, a story about my past, about how it happened. And when we realize that everything is coming from our thoughts and our beliefs, not the circumstance, and we can put some space in between, analyze what we're actually thinking and believing, okay? And say, oh, this happened and I'm believing this because of this. And this is what causes my feeling, my belief, my thinking is what causes my feeling. Then we can do a next step and ask ourselves, but is this giving me the energy? Is it giving me the empowerment? Or is it giving me pain? Is it giving me suffering? Is it keeping me in a loop? Is it keeping me down or depressed?
Okay.
And we can begin to work on our thoughts and transitioning our thoughts to produce different feelings. Now, it's not just like an automatic, I'm just going to believe this. No, because that doesn't seem to work. Like sometimes we know what should be true, but we actually really feel and think something else. And so it's one of the things I do as a coach, but I also want to just say to the viewers, this is transformative, that if we can separate those two things and just take responsibility and say, it's not that person or that circumstance or COVID causing me to feel this way. It's my thoughts about it. And I actually have power and control over my thoughts and over my beliefs. Wow. And I have another teacher that I listen to, and he's awesome. And he says this, that life will present you with circumstances and situations to show you where you're not yet free.
Yeah. Ooh.
And so in other words, when we are reacting, when we're triggered, I have another teaching I like to do, or a saying that it says that triggers are growing opportunities.
Yeah.
Right. So when I'm triggered, if I can take that as a self-growing opportunity, then I'm actually taking my power back. Because when we say something else causes us to feel, then we have no power.
Yeah.
We've given our power away.
Yeah.
Right. But we say it's coming from me, and it's the story and the narrative that I have about the circumstance. We take our power back. And when we're triggered, then we just know that that's an area where we're not yet expressing the freedom that's already in us. We have a belief structure, a framework of thinking that's causing us pain, that's causing us to be triggered, and we can grow from there.
Yeah. So I am touched with the information that you shared with us, and I am so sorry, but I only ask you the last question, Amy. Can you invite our viewers for the online course, The Relationship with Self, so they are encouraged to, what are the positive, the benefits for registering into this course, online course?
Oh, the benefit is self-transformation and self-growth, and a step-by-step process, so that, sometimes we want to grow, we want to change, but we don't quite know what to do. So I feel like I'm giving something from a lot of my years of experience that is, at least it's a starting point. And I also have a theme for this year. It's called The Best Shape of Your Life. So where I encourage, if you enroll in the course, it's in there, where I encourage everyone to take an area in their life, whether it's, relational, financial, emotional, physical fitness, and just say, I want to get in the best shape of my life. And then you use that focus area to work on relationship with yourself. So the benefit is growth. The benefit is development. The benefit is more freedom, more peace, and more joy. Now, it might be a little painful going through the process, and you got to do the work. You know what I mean? Like, one of the things I have you do in the Relationship with Self course is just do some self-awareness and analyzing of, what do you think about yourself? And another one of the students just wrote back and said, wow, you know, over 5 days, I could easily find everything that I didn't like about myself, but I had a very hard time finding the things that I actually enjoyed about myself. So that just shows that that person needs to really work on the relationship
Yeah.
with themselves, right?
Yeah.
So that's the benefit. The benefit is growth and more power and getting in the best shape of your life.
Yeah. I registered for the online course. I haven't started it yet, but I am encouraging my friends, the viewers, to please visit the site. I will give you the link later. Amy Muranko Gahan, thank you very much for saying yes when I invited you. It is a pleasure to be a guest at Global Inspiration. This is again Jeanette Jordy at Global Inspiration, where you need to be seen, need to be heard, and be an inspiration to the world. Thank you very much.